Meat has always been a big deal for my family. Ever since I can remember, my mom and dad have always cooked it in a variety of ways. My mom was born in Indonesia and immigrated to the United States when she was 10. My grandmother, although separated from her culture, made sure that her children and grandchildren knew what Indonesia tasted like. With a large variety of spices and sauces, my mom can prepare many different types of meat-oriented dishes. My dad, on the other hand, comes from West Virginia, where, even worlds apart, his family made sure that he could cook and appreciate a delicious meal just like my mom. My dad's specialty is his steak. Grilling out has always been a hobby of his, and he loves to read about new recipes and tries them out as soon as possible. Always marinating or seasoning differently, my dad loves to cook the best food for everyone to enjoy. Even though everything my parents make is delicious, it's the steak dinner that cuts me to come home from college. No matter where I go, it always seems like my dad's steak is just a little bit better than every other place. Ever since I was a child, my dad decided to instill the same values of cooking in me. He taught me different types of preparation for the steak and also how to cook the certain temperatures. We both enjoy a medium rare that's a perfect amount of pink in the middle. These dinners not only bring home the family, but friends as well. When our friends or neighbors hear my dad is grilling steak, they coincidentally show up around dinner time, but he always prepares extra. The sense of togetherness that I experienced around these meals is what really interested me in steak and how other people in our society may view a meal of what is essentially just a hunk of meat. This interest in food, and steak in particular, inspired me to get a job at Malones, a prime beef steakhouse that originated right here in Lexington. Even though the money is good, what I really enjoy is the steak and the time and preparation that goes into preparing the meal, and also seeing the satisfaction of the customer after they have received a perfect meal. In order to better understand why a meal of prime beef is so significant, we have to take a closer look at where it all started. Meat has been part of humanity's diet since the discovery of fire. With this new tool that made meat safe for human consumption, we, as a race, were able to diversify our diets to not only encompass flora, but fauna as well. Although fire made meat sanitary for consumption, it still decomposed relatively quickly compared to vegetables or other plant matter. It wasn't until the 17th century that the method of using salt to help preserve the meat was instituted. This method was mainly practiced by sailors so that they could preserve the meat for their long voyages around the world. Other methods, such as pickling and smoking and storage underground, were used as well, but it wasn't until 1803 when a Quaker by the name of Thomas More patented the refrigerator, which consisted only of a box lined with rabbit fur as insulation and ice as the coolant. With the ability to preserve foods longer than ever before, More had changed food preservation and our diets forever. One of the biggest effects refrigeration had was on the meatpacking industry, which was mostly based in Chicago at the turn of the century. Refrigeration allowed more meat to reach more consumers, thus incorporating and sealing meat as a major food source for most of society. Along with a boom in production came the large growth of meatpacking factories. As the demand for meat increased, these meat conglomerates only cared about profit and not safety. Not until 1906 did the government, after Upton Sinclair's novel The Jungle sparked national concern, did they intervene in the procession of meat and introduce the Pure Food and Drug Act, which would prevent the manufacture, sale, transportation of adulterated or misbranded foods, drugs, medicines, and liquor, and the Federal Meat Inspection Act, which prohibited the sale of adulterated or misbranded meat and meat products for food and ensured that meat and meat products were slaughtered and processed in sanitary conditions. The United States Department of Agriculture is charged with enforcing these laws, and they inspect all of the meat and poultry consumed by the United States. In regards to the grading of the meat, the packer must request and pay a federally certified inspector to personally inspect the meat. The inspector will use 8 different types of grades, and when viewed here in this pyramid, we can see that only about 30% of all the meat graded is labeled USDA certified prime beef. Although choice and select meat have the same characteristics as prime beef, the meat labeled prime is considered the most flavorful, tender, and well-marbled meat on the market. To ensure that this criteria is met, the cattle owners ensure that the meat being graded comes from the youngest, healthiest, most well-fed cattle they own. The younger cattle helps to keep the meat tender because the older the cattle gets, the leaner its meat becomes, thus diminishing its suppleness. The other major factor in regards to meat grading is marbling. Marbling is small streaks of fat scattered throughout the lean meat. The fat content helps add to the flavor and tenderness as well, which is why it plays such a pivotal role when deciding the meat grade. The younger, healthier, most marbled meat is what is sought after because that's what people crave. Now that the meat has been processed, inspected, and graded, it can finally make its way to Malones in Lexington, Kentucky, where maybe someone like you can come in and order it. The first decision to be made about your steak is which one. Malones offers 6 different types of prime cuts, such as bone and fillet, the New York strip, and porterhouse. These cuts all come from different sections of the cow. As we can see, most of the finer cuts come from the abdomen. With your favorite cut in mind, it's time to choose what some say completes the steak: its temperature. There are 7 different types of temperatures that the USDA recognizes. We all have our preferences, and mine is medium rare, but that doesn't mean yours is too. You could order rare, medium, or well done, whichever pleases your taste buds. Most of the time, people have trouble distinguishing between the different types of temperatures, but have no fear, it's an easy concept to grasp. Starting with blue rare, or some say Pittsburgh style, the steak is cooked 1 to 2 minutes on each side, charring the outside but leaving the middle practically uncooked. From here, the steak can only become more done, that is, cooked more thoroughly. As you progress from blue rare to medium, and so on, we see a darkening of the meat along with a more cooked outside until all of the red and pink meat is turned darker and the outside of your steak is practically charred, which some refer to as overcooked. If you ever have any trouble determining what types of tenderness you desire, always refer to your hand. With your palm facing up, you can flex your pointer finger backwards and touch the area of muscle beneath your thumb with your other hand, and that more or less shows you the tenderness of rare to medium rare steak. As you progress and keep bringing back fingers, the muscle under your thumb tightens, thus simulating more cooked and firmer meat. This trick gives you the knowledge to at least look like you know something about prime beef cuisine. Now that we know all about the meat, we can look at the hospitality that provides it. I decided to interview one of my managers, Eric, to garner a better sense of the customer service Malone supplies. I also interviewed my head chef, Dave, to better understand the kitchen's view on customer hospitality. Malone standards when it comes to customer hospitality.
Well, we are a Bluegrass Hospitality Group, so hospitality is one of our main concerns. We want to make sure our guests are taken care of. We like to say, treat them like they're a guest in your home, or pretend like your guests are coming to your parents' house. Make sure they're treated well and taken care of. So that was very important for us.
Yeah. I wanted to learn a little more about the problems our managers and chefs may deal with and how exactly they rectify them, because we all can't be like Kenny. How do the managers deal with customer complaints such as a misorder or miscooked food?
Well, the biggest thing is trying to rectify the situation as quickly as possible. It's always tough when food is messed up, just because if you have everyone else sitting at the table with food and you have that one person without food, it's awkward. It makes everyone else uncomfortable. Do I eat? Do I not eat? So there's different approaches. Sometimes I'll offer to remake the entire table's meal, so that one person isn't stuck, not eating. But the biggest thing is we want to fix it as quickly as possible. Ask the guys, do they want that dish fixed? Do they want something different? It's a case by case scenario. No one table is going to be alike from another.
Yeah. How do you handle miscooked orders?
Usually, when I had a miscooked item is returned to me, I will, of course, prepare the item to the customer's liking and do anything I can to make the customer pleased and leave happy.
What is the most important aspect when dealing with a customer complaint?
I have to go with caring. It's hard for someone to stay mad if they feel like you care, and I think that's one of the best parts about this company is we employ people that care. So, when you say your steak is overcooked, we generally go and approach like we're actually upset about that. We don't want that to happen. How we fix it? Well, best thing is speed. We want to get it fixed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
But it all comes down to caring. We want to instill that in our staff, and we want to show the guests that we care too. So that fixes a lot of things.
Okay. Why is Malone's prime beef so exclusive?
It is the top 3% of all beef. It is well marbled, which contains fat. The sinew lines are small. It's a very tender beef, and it's the top 3% of all beef. So if you go choice and all that kind of stuff and black Angus, it is the top 3% of everything. Okay, the only thing that's above it is actually the Kobe beef.
Okay. What are some advantages and disadvantages of being the only prime steakhouse in Lexington?
Well, I mean, the advantage is we are the only one that sells pretty much all prime beef. So when people come here, they know they're coming and getting a great selection of steaks. But that goes along with the disadvantage too. I mean, sometimes people's expectations can be so high, it gets tough to deliver on those. We strive for 100% guest satisfaction 100% of the time, but with expectations that get so high, it's hard to live up to that sometimes. But I think the advantages severely outweigh the disadvantages with that. I mean, it's a prime beef steak. It's hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah, definitely. I had my chef run through the typical preparation of a steak to put into perspective the cooking of prime steak at Malones. All right, you can go for it.
Okay, 8-ounce filet. Let's say the customer orders it mid-rare. We'll, of course, have the filet actually sitting out at a close to room temperature. Okay, it actually sits at about 52 degrees. Not for any more than 3 hours, though. We take the steak, dry it with a clean paper towel, season it with a salt and pepper mix, which is 3 parts salt, 1 part pepper, and then cook it in an 1800 degree infrared broiler, flipping it 1 time, presenting it on the plate, serving it with béarnaise and a side item.
What do you think is the most important part of the meal, the food or the hospitality that provides it?
That's a tough one too, because I've always told tables, I'll go up and I'll ask how the service is. And the reason I do that is because we could have the best food in the world, but if we don't have the service to back it up, we really have nothing. I mean, I think most people can think of a time where they've gone to a restaurant and they got some food that was good, but the service was bad. So you don't want to go back there just because of service. They go hand in hand. I mean, of course, people are going to come for our prime steaks, but if we don't provide that high level of service as well, we're not going to get people to come back. So really, they're both pretty equally important.
My quest for steak has brought me closer with my family and introduced me to a multitude of new things. My job is one of these, and it has helped me to better understand the preparation and hard work that not only goes into the food, but the hospitality that provides it. I hope you all enjoyed my video and now have a little better understanding of what prime beef is and the best place to get it.